And I said, well, what do you want? I think my third arrest was for double murder. When I was 21, I was on a crime squad, kicking doors in. People are running away. The cops are running towards it. The custody sergeant's job is to protect the rights of the prisoner. Because we let him take it and we'd lost him, that's a gun on the streets. He got 14 years. I want him to get life. He'd been there and gone round and door open, he'd been blasted. Got the sawn off. We go, whatever happens now, we're taking them out. So you deliberately rammed the car? I said, yeah, I did. If you think I'm going to stick around, we're not even stopping to give first aid because we're still under attack. When I'm speaking as the cabinet office. Afghanistan, Iraq, Gaza, Somalia, Yemen, you name it. At some point, you're going to think something's safe to do. I'm going to say it's not. Know now that you'll be wrong and I'll be right. I've always wanted to be the head of the Prime Minister's Protection Team. He'd turn up and presidents and kings would invite him in for dinner.
With me today then, I've got a very special guest. He's ex-policeman and his name's Tim Baimbridge. How are you, mate? You all right?
Good, thank you, Phil. Nice to have me.
Yeah, been looking forward to this one, mate, because we hadn't seen each other. When did I last see you?
Oh, and you're going to ask me that. It was 2009 we first met when we were both out in Israel.
Yeah.
Probably 2015 maybe, 2016 last time we saw each other.
You were still job then, were you?
Oh, well,
how long have you been out?
I retired in February 2017. So Valentine's Day is my first day as a civvy, which you reminded me when you sent me a snotty little message on Facebook. So yeah, February 2017 was when I left, and then that's when I headed out to the Middle East. But we've talked about that.
Right, let's go right back.
Yeah.
And let's go when you had a similar amount of hair to what you've got now. Let's talk about baby Tim. Where are you from?
So born and bred in Gloucestershire, small village, very small village. There used to be a pub and a church and the post office, but the post office closed. So a very small village in Gloucestershire.
Happy family?
Yeah, very much so. I came from a big family. My mum had 14 brothers and sisters.
Wow.
So yeah, it was a big family. She was one of the youngest.
Yeah.
Most of the cousins were involved in the police side of things, one way
or the other. I was going to say, you can't have a family that big and everybody be batting on the same side. You know
there
what
was
I mean?
some interesting times at funerals where the cop side of the family came across the crim side of the family. Yeah, it was a big family. But no, great time. Really nice area, the West Country. Like you, really. I'm from Hampshire originally, of course. So it was really nice. Very lucky growing up there.
School?
Yeah, school. Marling, a grammar school. I loved it.
Oh, you were clever then.
Well,
you were all right.
Clever or lucky, one of the two. But I mean, I loved
Don't
it.
be modest.
I played rugby, so that was great for me.
Okay.
So my dad had gone to school as well. He was in the first 15 there, so I had a lot.
There's a family tradition in that
very
school.
Much so. Yeah,
it
was
nice.
A good school. It was very solid.
Did that give you something to live up to? What did your old man do?
My dad was a butcher. He was RAF originally. He was RAF, and then he came out and went to the family business, butchering. He was there until the mid-2000s when he
in
retired.
those days, you know, if you was the butcher in a place like that, everybody knew you, didn't they? Everyone wanted to be your friend as well, didn't they?
Well, I couldn't believe it. So jump forward to 2008. I'm in Hong Kong. I'm working in Hong Kong. I'm sitting there having a beer with my boss, the head of the command, and British couple sit alongside us. And we start chatting, and the guy asked where we're from. I said, Gloucestershire, whereabouts? Stray. So this guy said, I'm from Stroud. So really, I'm just outside. Said, my dad used to have a butcher's shop in town. He goes, you're not Mike Baimbridge's boy, are you? And I said, yeah, my boss is going, and he turns to his wife and said, I tell you can't beat a Baimbridge sausage. I'm literally about as far away as we could get. Told my old man, he goes, told you, darling. So yeah, you're absolutely right. If you're one of the local traders, then everybody knows.
Yeah. To be fair, right, I prefer my meat from a local butcher than the supermarket stuff, which is pumped full of water. I'll do your dad an advert now.
I would say no.
Is he still going?
No, so he retired. He's 85 now, so he retired and handed the business over. He never wanted me to go into it. Always said that there was no future because he knew, as you said, the big supermarkets
were going to take
tearing up, and they
Baimbridge sausage stopped with him then.
Definitely, that could go in a different direction. But no, you're absolutely right. And so, and to be quite honest, the hours my dad did, I thought I did long hours in the job and on CP and stuff, but yeah, really, really long hours, and it's hard times.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah, so you did your schooling. You did all right, grades and all that sort of
stuff.
Yeah,
it's okay. We O levels, like GCSEs now. Didn't do A levels. That wasn't really my academic side, really.
What started getting you to leaning towards a career in service?
The cadets. And
Okay.
I know you have involvement with the cadets.
Yeah.
So I was 14, I guess. I think it was 13, 14. I think it was youngest. And enjoying physical side of things with the rugby and all that sort of stuff. But I wanted a little bit more. And a friend of mine said, "Do you fancy the cadets?" Didn't really know anything about it. These are the Army cadets, ACF.
Yeah.
And I went along, and he lasted about 2 weeks, and I stayed there until I was 18.
Okay, so what cat badge were you?
Gloucester's. So
Oh, really? Glorious Gloucesters.
Right,
Glorious Gloucesters.
Stroud Platoon, 1st Cadet Battalion in Gloucester Regiment, ACF.
Wow, there you go.
So yeah, I loved it.
And that doesn't stay with you, does it?
No, God, exactly. I mean, it was great. And it not only...
Did you get any rank?
Yeah, I was a Cadet Sgt Major.
Oh, wow.
So I end up as the B Company CSM.
But that, to me, right, and I look at the Cadet Sgt Majors now when I meet them, that's a tremendous achievement.
Oh, mate, it was
It really is.
a huge privilege. And also Lord Lieutenant's Cadet, and there was one cadet from the county.
Yeah, living the dream.
Well, it was certainly, not only did I enjoy it, and did it give me a real perspective on service, to the crown, if you like.
Yeah.
But also, as you're aware, there's a lot of community service involved in it, getting in with the community and building the reputation of the community and promoting the ACF.
Yeah.
I mean, I loved it. It's something I always wanted to go back to.
Not only that, you learn quite a bit as well, because presumably you did some sort of first aid when you were in there.
Yeah, very, very basic first aid, but map and compass,
you
skeleton arms.
you pick up some skills, don't you? Do you know what I mean? And
all the instructors were really good. And there were a couple of cops in there, and that added to my kind of goal. But it was brilliant.
So you must have been thinking Army. At what point did you go, I'll tell you what, not the Army, I'm going to go for the police?
No, so I applied for Army Air Corps. I did a course with the cadets who did a UKLF leadership course.
Yeah.
And it was in a time in the mid-'80s where lots of money, there's no big ops going on, so lots of money would come into the cadets. So we had, every section had a 4-tonner Land Rover, they were flying Pumas at us, flying around this Puma thinking, I like helicopters. Yeah. And so applied for the Army Air Corps, and I was, I think it was about 18. And I mean, got quite a fair distance through it, but they came back and said, look, you're young. And I was, I was young. They said, come back in year 21, something like that, 22 maybe, because they have rank brackets, as you know.
Yeah.
Coming about 21. And I thought, okay, so what am I going to do now? Other reasons, I went into the police. When I was 21, I was on a crime squad, kicking doors in, absolutely loving it. Thought, this is where I need to be. And then later on, I thought, I will come back and give another go at the Army. I was 29. And they told me, sorry, son, you're too old.
You're too old. So, right, let's talk about your police career, because you had a good career, didn't you? Good long career. And you've achieved some good stuff and all, haven't you? Some proper stuff. So let's talk about you when you first joined up. Yeah. Because I'm taking it, you do basic training, and then you have to spend a bit of time on the beat.
Yeah.
Like a normal copper.
Yes, I'm hesitant because I know that there are now, like I said, I've been out 6 years, but you can now do a direct entry, an officer sort of entry now, but that's quite, it's not a very common way of doing it.
Right,
but, so most people do what I do, you do basic training. We did 5 months at Hendon.
And you enjoyed that? Was it?
It was tough, yeah. And I was young, I was green, in both senses of the word, I guess. I'd been to London twice on school trips. I didn't really know it. And it was a harsh
instructors, are they harsh on you? Is there a physical element?
Yeah, physical. It's very physical. Again, I don't know if it is so much now. We would do it was 5 days a week. Every day we'd be doing in the gym, either doing self-defense or sweat sessions or in the pool. It'd be every day we're doing something. The instructors were good, actually. They were good trainers, drill sergeants as well. For the drill side of things, they were a bit more, I guess, military. They thought they were. They didn't get on great with them.
A bit more screamy shout.
Yeah, a bit screamy, which didn't really help because most people, it's like trying to teach someone to march, 2 left feet.
Yeah,
but but most of it was good. It was a lot of academic stuff, but Hendon, like I said, largest police training college in the world, 225 people every 5 weeks turning up. Wow. It was massive.
How long is your basic training?
5 months.
Oh, wow. Okay, so it's quite a long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And about halfway through, you do about 3/4 of the way through then anyway, you did a day on the streets. And mine was London Marathon, 2017. 1987 rather. And you're out in your uniform on the streets, the real streets, because Hendon has loads of, like a CQB really for policing. So it's got streets and buildings and hot shops and all that sort of stuff. But you're out in the real world, and you walk down the street, and you're kind of like looking in the shop windows because obviously this is buttons, brass, but the buttons.
You
and
are
the big
now.
silly hat.
I'm old Bill.
I know. It's really it was good, but no, Hendon was good. You make friends that you keep all the way through your service.
Yeah, I can imagine so.
And then of course because it's so big. It's not like joining a regiment where you might know where you're going, the people you're going to stay with. Once you get there, that's it. It's 35,000 cops in London, around about that, and off you go. And you're posted to, at the time, a police station.
So was you Met then?
Yeah, it was Met.
Met.
Sorry,
Met
this is Met. Yeah, so I went from Gloucester to the Met. My cousin was in the Met.
Do you think there's a bit of prestige about being the Met?
Yeah.
Do Met coppers go on Met coppers? You know what I mean?
Biggest gang in London, mate.
So, yeah.
So I mean, my decision was kind of, as I said, cousins in the Met and cousins in Gloucestershire and cadet instructors in Gloucestershire.
Yeah.
And I said, well, what do you want? Do you want to serve your community, or do you want to go out and kick some ass and really experience everything? And the answer was, I want some of that.
I want the whole lot.
Then you go to London, go to the Met, because Met will have whole squads doing something that in the Cadet counties they might not do, or you have one guy does five things.
One detective
Exactly.
for the sleepy village of
they haven't got a
Tickle on the
budget.
Tum.
Absolutely. But no, the Met had all sorts of squads, and I thought, I want to film a boots. But you're right. So you go to a police station. They posted me almost to the borders of the Met, back out again to the west, and you do finish off your 2 years. So it's another 18, 19 months probation.
Okay.
During that, you do secondments to different departments like traffic, TSG, like the riot police, and so CID, the crime squad, mounted.
So you're just basically going to all these different departments,
having a look,
getting as much as you can, filling your boots.
Yep, absolutely.
Can you remember the first time Can you remember your first collar?
Yeah, I can.
Go on, tell us about it.
It was checkbook fraud, which was like really unusual because where I was out on the west of it, we had loads of car chases, ram raids, counties coming in. It was really busy that way, lots of burglaring, and my first one was it was someone just passed a dodgy credit check across a shop.
So there wasn't a big scuffle getting hold of him or nothing. Just
no, it was a bit. I was kind of.
Was that a bit of a letdown? Was it?
It kind of was. I was standing there going, "You have to
go
silent."
I want to wind him into the floor.
Then that came a little later, and then once you've broken your cherry, you relax a little bit more.
Can you walk around the station once you've got a collar on?
Actually, you sit on a different table in the canteen. So there's a probationer's table. The probationers have not made an arrest yet, and then there's probationers have made an arrest. You're slowly working your way towards the driver's table.
Oh, mate, yeah.
So it was and then after that, then I think my third arrest was for double murder.
Really?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a bit about that?
It was not as exciting as it sounds, purely because that one was there'd been a murder in Wales. It's back in the late episode 88, 89. Quite a famous murder on a hill path. What do you call it? A path across the hills. Path on the hills. And they had a suspect, and they circulated the detailed description, photo fit, and around. And we got this guy, and he was a dead match for it. Same date of birth, slightly different name. And
was it him?
It was no.
Oh.
It wasn't him. But he came in and asked him about his movements, where he'd been. Have you been to Wales recently? Yes, I have. And I'm going, not only does he match the description, not only has he got the right date of birth, his name's not that far off the suspect looking for. He fit the profile.
He fit Wales.
So he
You must have been like, I got him, lads.
I mean,
yeah.
The custody sergeant goes, get the CID down here. And, it wasn't him, but it was still that kind of feeling of this is particularly.
Do you get a bit of a buzz when if on your way to a job? I mean, those are sort of like, that sounds like it was pretty premeditated. But if you're just in a patrol car, and the old radio goes, it's like, right, all call signs.
Yep,
head west.
Definitely, especially when I remember very clearly just being out in trying to panda car, and hold up alarm at the bank, just down the road, and you're going to get there way before any armed cars, because especially out in West London, so you're going to go there. Is it a false alarm? Probably will be, but it might not be. And one of my instructors,
you don't know. You still got to run towards it, haven't you?
Absolutely. One of my instructors at training school, he'd been there and gone round and door open, he'd been blasted. Guy was sawn off.
Wow.
So you never know when you go into that. So you get that feeling.
Yeah.
And the sound of the sirens, if you're in that kind of car, the blue lights, and it's kind of, I mean, it's a classic thing where people are running away, the cops are running towards it, which is why I get a little bit miffed when the cops get, as a blanket organisation, get a kicking. Individuals is one thing, but when organisation gets a kicking, when literally they're the ones running in the opposite direction.
Yeah, I've never got that myself. I've never got that myself. So I have been, I've obviously been lifted myself a few times. I've never been lifted when I haven't done something that wasn't stupid. Like, do you know what I mean? So I can't complain, can I? Do you know what I mean? It's been my fault. So yeah, no, I get a bit sort of like, hang on a minute.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because 9 times out of 10, the people that moan about you are the ones that are going to be the first ones on the blower when things have gone Pete Tong for them.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you beat stuff.
Yeah.
Any more significant arrests made on there? Anything?
Right. Well, I kind of you're testing my memory now, Phil. There's a lot. So in my probation, I probably got around to that 80, 90 arrests.
Really?
Yeah. You go to central London and they were getting hundreds because it was like vagrants and stuff like that. But out on like I said, the outer boroughs, or outer divisions where I was, there's a lot more crime, burglaries, like I said, car chases. We had a lot of really, really good car chases.
Mate, that'd be right up my street.
Good car chase. I know that's a bad thing, but
it'd be right up my street. That,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
Mate, we were because we bordered Heathrow, and as you go around the southern perimeter road on Heathrow, there's like a traffic hub, for police cars and stuff. I mean, my mate, I've been driving the response cars for a while then, and we'd always on nights we'd go and have our sandwiches or whatever, 3 o'clock in the morning, sit out there because crime isn't happening in the police station, so we'd sit out on the ground.
That's what the ambulance crews have done for years, isn't it? They go and sit by a junction that they know is likely to have somebody go wearing across later on,
and they can get to wherever they need to from that point.
A lot quicker, yeah.
So I mean, we were sitting there and came with a radio, what they call lost or stolen, because car's missing. Have I lost it? Come around, we parked it. Was it stolen? Anyway, so lost or stolen. Vauxhall Cavalier 1.6, blah, 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 from Feltham. That wasn't too far from us. So I turned to my mate and said, we'd have a chance of keeping up with that. And boom, it came straight onto the roundabout. Oh, there it was. Sandwiches over there. Off we go in, blue lights and pursuit lights. And yeah, tally-ho, we're in. And that's car chase and bad guys in the bin.
So at some stage, you must have thought to yourself, right, this is fun, but I want to take it to the next level now.
Yeah.
So when did that happen for you?
Again, it was things happen on night duties. I was on a night duty, and I didn't really know much about the crime squad at the time. And at that point, there were quite a few crime squads, and we asked, can we go in uniform presence on this junction to cover the crime squad to go and do something? So okay, didn't really know who the crime squad were, and so we go off and we're sitting there, and I was quite young at this point, so it was a while before I was actually driving, and the old sweat PC said, we're just going to park up and just keep out of the way, just in case something kicks off. Okay. So I'm sitting in the car, it's 3 o'clock in the morning, it's all dark, and then out of the shadows, half a dozen guys come running across the road, jackets and bags, and kind of sledgehammers. Oh, what the hell? He said, it's all right, son, don't worry, son. And the first guy goes up the front door, and as he's getting to the front door, the other guy launches the sledgehammer like a javelin straight through the front window of his house. That was the distraction technique. Didn't have like flashbangs. Straight through, and then boff down it goes, and they all go piling in. I go, who the hell are they? He goes, that's the crime squad. I'm going, I want a bit of that.
I want to be one of them.
I want to
be them, yeah.
As soon as I finished my probation, within 6 months I was on the crime squad.
Okay, so did that entail going away doing some more training, presumably?
There was bits of training, because we were just starting to get into the way the Met, again, this is very early 90s, the way the Met handled intelligence had changed. There had been a lot of issues around corruption and police officers meeting their informants on their own and who actually own intelligence. So there's a big drive on how you run and recruit and run agents. So there's that kind of stuff as well. But it's still, and it's light years beyond that now. But yeah, there was a lot of that. There was a lot of putting operations together, running observation posts. We weren't doing mobile surveillance. I did that later. But running OPs and target identification plans together, tracking individuals.
Can you tell us any of the jobs that you did while you were with them?
Again, we had a lot of ram raiding side of things. So which was, because we're a border area, so a Thames Valley, Surrey, and the Met, a tri-border area. What would happen is they would be doing the high-end burglaries in Thames Valley, or still come in Thames Valley, go and do the burglaries in Surrey. But they lived on our ground, so we had to coordinate those. We'd do a lot of operations where we would be waiting for them to come back. We'd spot up the addresses. We had people that we knew were doing.
So presumably some of these faces were under surveillance for quite some time, and then they'd get teed up. So there was no opportune stuff here. Everything was getting teed up.
Everything was intelligence led. So part of our role was to develop that intelligence as well, which is what I'm talking about, going out and when I say sources, informants, basically. And everybody who got arrested at that period would be getting in, and they'd have an intelligence interview. And so in the morning, one of the first jobs we'd go down to the cells, and we said, need to visit. And because it wasn't about the evidence for what they'd been arrested for, they didn't need a lawyer present. And so we'd go in and we'd have 5 minutes with everybody. If you walked in a door and they told you to do one, you stayed in there for 5 minutes, because what you didn't want was 10 seconds with that guy, 5 minutes with that guy, 10 seconds,
and
10
then
seconds.
they've all worked out.
Who's the guy that's talking?
He gets a kick in, yeah.
So everybody gets the 5 minutes, and if they want to keep talking, then we do it later. But so it's about building that intelligence opportunities.
Okay.
And telling people.
Do people squeal quite quickly? Do they?
Yeah.
Is it usually for a return of going? I'll tell you what. You go easy with the beak.
I was going to say that it's one of the I guess one of the jobs when you're identifying. It's different. If someone's in sales, then yeah, absolutely, that's what they want to do. They either want a letter, because we don't do. It's not like states. You don't do
plea deals.
Thank you. It's a letter to the judge about all they're going to get.
Yeah.
Or taking into consideration something. But if you're targeting someone because you want to get into an organisation, so later on I was running a crack and firearms task force in South London, and that was more like. You'd imagine it. We had different gangs, and we were trying to take them out and work out how we go. And what you do then is you develop your intelligence, and you realise, or you work out, who was the weaker link, who could lead you to somewhere else.
Yeah.
And once you've identified who you want, you then have to work out what would their motivation be to come to us, to come over to us.
Yeah, they've got to have something.
Exactly.
It's like any business transaction in the world. It's got to work for both parties.
So is it money? Is it some kind of grievance they might have that you know about? Sometimes with their girlfriend.
Would you
with a
use
boss
that as a lever? Did you
motivation?
Use sort of like levers? Motivation. Levers, I call them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, it is. It's psychological pressure, and you put on. But there's, as you said, they've got to see what's in it for them.
Yeah. And
of course, if you got them nicked, then there's potential there for.
Well, there's one straight away, isn't it?
Yeah, straight away. But then we talk about these sort of gangs. As soon as one of their team or crew's arrested, they assume they're going to have pressure put on them. So automatically they get slightly sidelined, or they get a bit less trust from the rest of the gang. So they're not really the ones you want. What you want are the ones that aren't under suspicion.
Haven't been lifted.
Yeah, and so they're the ones you have to target and work through.
Are they quite hard to get hold of? I mean, I don't want you to give away too much on here, but are they quite easy to get to?
No, not really. And it takes time, and this is the trouble for it, is that performance equals charges. How quickly get somebody charged, and so.
And there's always a risk, I suppose, of the guy that you're actually going to try and manipulate. Yeah, he's going to get lifted anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and so a lot of times do kind of asymmetric. So you look at, we had one particular gang, and I'm going to be careful how I phrase this.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So we had one particular gang that was caused real problems, and we had a very, very, very quick bit of information that one of them was going to relocate a firearm for someone else to pick up. And so these are two pretty big players in this gang, and so I literally grabbed one of the other DCs with me, and me and I just jumped in the car and we got down there. We didn't have a chance for anything else because public place, didn't know any authorities, and sure enough, the guy comes out and deposits this gun in a public area and disappears. This is like 11, 12 o'clock at night, so it hides it somewhere. So it wasn't going to be found back here, but it was here.
Yeah.
So off they go, and I think. Right, no chance to get any other authorities. So I said, let's go and make sure it's there. So I go in, search around, and sure enough, there's this shape of a gun, a handgun, in a sock on the ledge of this place. So I decided, let's take it. Let's just take it. So we take it, and we go back in, and sure enough, about 4 or 5 minutes later, the other bad guy turns up, looking for it, looks for it, it's not there, and the DC I'm with, she's going, we should just let him take it. I said, we couldn't, because we let him take it and we'd lost him. That's a gun on the streets. So, there was a bigger picture of securing, because we still hadn't got an armed response vehicle out to us. We didn't have the time for that. It was all very, very fast time. So I said, I'm going to take it. So anyway, we take it, our guy gets humping, off he goes. Go back, and then it's forensicated, and unsurprisingly, there's just all sorts of crap on this thing. But we did pick up a fingerprint. And I said, right, we can go and lift that guy. But then all he could say is, well, I was in a club and someone just handed me something and I just handed it back.
Yeah. Or, they're very clever like that. Yeah.
Or we do nothing. Let's just hold it and see what happens. And that's what I said, because A, put that gun there. B, came to pick it up. 2 minutes later, it wasn't there. Now, A and B were senior lieutenants, if you like, in this gang.
Yeah.
Not for much longer they weren't, because we took the gun, and A and B got a little bit upset with each other, because they accused each other of stealing the gun.
Yeah.
They didn't. Then there was a lot of paperwork that had to be done about potential of one of them shooting each other, of course, and we are talking quite a while ago now. But we found out through our sources very quickly that started a mild fracture between those two, and within 6 months, the gang was done.
Really?
Distrust. They didn't trust each other.
Yeah, they thrive on trust.
Of course they do. Everything's about trust. That's why, like I said, if one of them's lifted, then it's kind of like, well, straight away.
It's ironic, really, that the shiftier they are, the more trust they need to get away with it.
Yeah, these gangs. I mean, you take it later on when I did CT stuff.
Yeah,
the Nutty Squad in Northern Ireland. I mean, their intelligence work for the IRA was some of the best going out there because they had no rules. So they knew anybody got arrested, got a proper interrogation because they lost trust. And so if you can get into these criminal gangs and if you can break that trust, especially with senior people, without particularly, and everything we did was above the law, above the law, no issues. Was in line with the law, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It was just asymmetric. Then you get that little bit of rot in there, and the trust. They don't trust each other, and they start turning.
It's time done.
Yeah.
So you did that for a number of years.
Yeah.
On the special branch.
Yeah.
And that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
What was your next move?
So
did you do firearms on special branch?
Yeah, I did. So I did surveillance. I was 4 years on a surveillance team, which was some of the best and dullest time of my life.
Mate, I've been there. Sat in the bush. 14 days for one photograph like that.
But when it comes off and when you get it,
beautiful, thing of beauty.
Absolutely. If I go back now and think about surveillance, I think it's some fantastic jobs. That was the second time I actually rammed a car off the road, but that's another thing. But you kind of love it. But if I do go back and think that's half a dozen things in 4 years, there was a lot of time sitting in a car getting bored on my mind. So this sort of surveillance.
You just said rammed a car off the road. Tell me about ramming the car off the road. I want to know.
What's the statute of limitations? So this was it was my last day or certainly the last week I was on surveillance. I've been promoted. I was being promoted to sergeant, going to uniform for a while, and we were following a team of really quite nasty burglars from South London. And they were going out to their counties and turning over golf clubs, but they were prepared to use violence. And
right,
stuff.
Okay. So, proper.
Yeah, they were a nasty team. And we had, now, again, this is late 90s, so technology wasn't Google Maps or any of that sort of stuff.
Yeah, none of that. No sat-navs.
Yeah, none of that. So, long story, we had the arrest team from the crime squad. We were then the dedicated surveillance team, so we should always stay covert. We put in, get the evidence, they come in and make the arrest. We're out there and get in the car, run around for about a week or so. And it's, again, all night stuff. And then we ended up out heading west, and we got our map books and we kept going west, and then we're off. We're at the map books. Our London geography A to Z doesn't go to Surrey. Past it, that was the airport, and kept going. And so they end up doing a. We literally don't know where we are. We're trying to give descriptions that we've lost the arrest team. They don't know where they are either. And they do this golf club in Surrey. And I didn't know exactly where it was in Surrey. We were just in Surrey. So they break in. We've got a footman out on the ground, and he's going, they're doing it, smashing windows now. They're in there. They've got baseball bats, all that sort of stuff. So they come back out into the car, and we're trying to plot up. We're trying to talk the arrest team in. They don't know where we are. It's going horribly wrong. And they came out of a different entrance, and they had a head-to-head with our motorcyclist. And they saw a motorcyclist, and they drove at him. And Murph, and they just avoided. He managed to just drop the bike so he didn't get hit, but they tried to take him out, and it was all off. Excuse me. So the surveillance became a chase, and I was driving the controller, the team leader, and he's kind of like on the phone, 3 9s. This is who we are. This is what we're doing. Where are you? You'll be the second person to know. There's trees. There's no buildings, and we're driving down. Eventually, we realise where we are, and we're on this road, and the arrest team they're balked, and the guys are just driving at the cars, and there's a member of the public came past, and they drove at them as well, so they were really dangerous. And so there were 2 of us right behind. There's the Bandit car, there's my mate in a Golf GTI, we don't use them anymore, and I was in a Nissan Primera, which was actually a nice car. It had brakes like anchors. But anyway, and we're driving these country lanes, and suddenly my mate, who's on his own because his footy is still out, overtakes the Bandit car. Now, one of the things you don't tend to do in a chase is overtake the bad guy. Because, Anyway, so I thought, where the hell is he going? This Russ. So he overtakes him, and literally about 100 yards later, he does a handbrake turn. He blocks the road because he'd seen past the Bandit there was a no-through road to the right.
Right, okay.
So Russ has overtaken him and forced him to this near road. brilliant bit of forward vision for a chase. So off go, and then we're following down, and we're going through. And again, they tried to hit another member of the public who would walk in a dog or something. So it's really, really dangerous. So I go down and we decide, right, we're stopping this. We go, whatever happens down, we're taking them out. And we go down, and it opens up into this dead end area, a gravel car park. And they come to broadside, and they start to try and manoeuvre. And the passenger, who's a team leader, said, take them. Bam! So let's take the rear quarter of the car, and smash it through this wall, and they're down, and then they're all out, and everyone's. As I'm driving down, I'm turning, because I used to have my radio in a bum bag when I was driving.
Yeah.
So I'm turning my radio on, and I'm getting my earpiece in, and all this sort of stuff. And it's pitch black, and we're out, and we're running, and it is pitch black, and all we can hear is feet and grass and crashing and running this sort of. And we don't know where we are or anything. We've got the comms coming up, and we run through, and suddenly I hear them running. I can't hear them running anymore. And I thought they stopped. I carried running. And what happened is there was a 6-foot drop, and they just like Tom and Jerry. They run out over this drop, and we're on the floor. Everyone's grabbing hold of arms and punching and grabbing and trying to.
It turns into a tear.
A massive bundle, and off they go. And then we kind of grabbed hold of one and lost the others. And then the locals start to turn up, and the locals, fantastic, very much Surrey. Oh, that's it. We get down there, look up, and I suddenly realise I'm in Henley, because we'd been past Henley on Thames. It was a regatta, so all the regatta stuff. I thought, oh shit, this is Henley. And we had a dog van, helicopters, and slowly but surely they all got rounded them up.
Wow.
It was so the best part about it. I hope this doesn't come out to bite me. The garage sergeant, and the garage sergeant is the traffic police who deal with accidents with police officers and stuff like that. So they're senior traffic officer on duty. So he turns up, he's got his accident book out, and I'm thinking, this shit. Sorry, I've got problems.
Yeah.
Nothing illegal, but I hadn't done the full level of training. But I said, well, it had to be done. So he asked me what happened, and I tell him. He said, so you deliberately rammed the car? I said, yeah, I did. Well, this is an accident book. Nothing about it deliberate. And I thought, what the hell was it? God. Because I get back to the Met, and they went mental. Oh, yeah, but he said, well, the Surrey have dealt with it. And so didn't come back.
Sorry, done. Line closed.
Yeah.
Happy days.
That
was sort of like your swan song then with Special Branch. Surveillance.
Yeah.
Where did you go then?
So that was the surveillance, and then so I did some more time, because each time I got promoted, I went back to uniform.
Is that a normal thing?
It tends to be. Because I
wasn't. Why do they do that?
Well, if you were, I went from uniform to the crime squad, and crime squads and surveillance teams tend to be made up of PCs, not DCs.
Okay.
So uniform constables on plainclothes secondments, because we are cheaper, I guess.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And so when I got promoted, then I couldn't go into a detective role, so I went back to uniform. So PC from the surveillance team went to uniform as a sergeant.
Is that hard, going back to uniform?
Yeah, I hadn't been to the police station for 5 years, because we don't make arrests on surveillance. It was. I mean, I remember I did my sergeant's course, and then the next day I'm in a custody suite, because you do 6 months as the custody sergeant, which is
on the desk.
Yeah,
signing people in.
Yeah, which I kind of, but actually I think it's really good, because you really know the law. Because you've got to, because you're the custody.
Puts your feet back on the ground for 5 as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, and the custody sergeant's job is to protect the rights of the prisoner, not to help the investigation. So you really got to know the law. But I mean, I've been turned up, and I said, well, on my course, you use paper custody records. You got computers. Well, how do I do this? Well, you go through this program. So I don't know that. Well, use your email. I said, I don't have an email.
Typewriter on the telly, isn't it? Like, what is that?
Well, 5 years earlier, I've been using a typewriter, on the crime squad. So it was different. But yeah, so I did that, but about a year, and then they were looking for again, the Crack and Firearms Task Force wanted a uniform sergeant, but with surveillance and proactive experience to partner with the detective sergeant. And so they approached me, and I said, yeah, uniform's fun, but I want to go start smashing doors in again. So I went on to there, and I was there for probably about another 2 years. But whilst I was there, again, when promotion comes along, you need to make sure you ticked a few boxes.
Yeah.
And all of my CV was, kicking doors in and proactive and that sort of stuff. And I hadn't had any of the, more community-based stuff. And so an opportunity came up on the hate crime unit, which I said, yeah, I'll go and do that. And whilst I was on there, there was a rape, and this was at Lambeth, and then they had unfortunately have a lot of rapes, but this one, when the DNA came back, it matched for a serial rapist in Birmingham. He's a the West Mids had done a fantastic job, but they just couldn't find this guy who's horrendous abduction, stranger rapes, and they wanted different things. So again, I was asked if I'd come over and run the proactive side of trying to find this individual, and because we had no shortage of evidence, we just didn't know who it was.
Didn't know who he was.
No,
or who he was. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
We came over and. Me and my mate, because the rape had happened, the victim, again, completely innocent woman, had been dragged into a disused crack house, a recently disused crack house. And this was a gunpoint rape and horrendous. So me and my partner, we went in and we said, right, we know who runs that crack house. On the crime squad, they weren't on top list, but we're prepared to move them onto our top list. So we started prioritising them. Putting pressure on, levers, as you like.
Levers, yeah.
About, this is all very fast time, about 2 days, because we went, full on to this, because we needed to get this, because the first one had been physical, just physicality. Second one had been knife point. Third point, gun point. This was, this is going to be a murder.
Someone's going to wind up dead, isn't
this
they?
is going
proper,
to be,
yeah.
And it was, and
it's an escalation, isn't it?
100% escalation, you're absolutely right, Phil. And the profiling, which we came to, was kind of obvious this was going to go one way. Horrendous offences already, but this was a murder waiting. Yeah. So we threw all the resources at it, and about 2 days into it, Hugh and I are back in the office tidying up the warrant paperwork, and we get called. There's someone at the front desk to see you. We go down there, and there's one of the players from one of the gangs and his girlfriend, and she's like, "Tell him what you told me." And he's like, So we go into the interview room, and he handed us a phone number and a street name. I said, I think that's who you're after, because we had a description and everything. I think this is the guy you're after. And, and off they went. And so we looked at it. It was effectively a burner phone. It didn't have them then, but the phone took us nowhere. We just had a number and a name, a street name. And this was not long after, there's a very unfortunate, very famous murder and collapse trial called Rachel Nickel. This was in Wimbledon. She'd been out walking her dog and she was murdered, and a guy by the name of Colin Stagg was wrongly convicted of it.
Oh, okay. And
part of his conviction was based on the fact that the police put a UC, an undercover female cop, into him and got a confession out of him, and then it all collapsed because the confession was false. He did it to impress her. The confession. Yeah.
What a way to impress your girlfriend.
Yeah, I know. Murder last one.
God.
Yeah, as you can imagine. So there's a whole load of stuff came in. I think called RIPA, Regulation of Investigative Powers Act, changed everything.
Like what they did there. I like what they did there.
Yeah,
Ripper.
Exactly.
Like
Rip it out. So RIPA is a huge, basically completely turned policing on its head. Up until then, unless there was a piece of legislation that said you couldn't do something, you do it. And we did all the stuff with stuff because there's no law. Complete change. You then had to have a power. Piece of legislation had to tell you could do that or you couldn't do it. And that meant that members of the public could do more stuff that cops could, investigation-wise, private investigators, etc. Anyway, so RIPA had just come in, and I said, well, look, we've got a phone number. Why don't we get a UC, an undercover officer, to phone him up, try and arrange something? So I spoke to the RIPA help desk, and I said, I don't know. I said, well, look, we're not after evidence. We just want him. Because when we got him, we got loads of evidence for all three offences, DNA. We don't need that. We just need him.
Yeah, just need him.
Get him. And they go, well, it'll go one way. It'll either work or you'll be in a stated case one way or another. I said, well, I'm prepared to run a stated case as long as I'm not breaking the law. I said, no, you're not breaking the law because the law isn't clear yet because it's brand new. So great. So I went down to our source unit, and there was because the suspect was Jamaican heritage, a very strong Jamaican accent, and there was a detective worked in the source unit from Jamaican heritage, and I said to her, look, I want to put a call in. Are you up for this? And she says, yeah, 100%, I'm up for this. So he spent some time kind of putting together a bit of a script, what we wanted, and it's all about you getting him to meet you for a date. So no problem at all. So over the next 2 or 3 days, you put calls in. What we didn't know is that Captain didn't take it to short was he was back in Birmingham where the other offence had happened. And eventually she gets him on a call. And I'm like this. I'm sitting right opposite, got the headphones on, recording everything, listening to it. There's red lines, what you will do, what you won't do, what you can say, what you can't say. And starts chatting. And he is, straight away goes, well, how do you get my number? I said, and she just goes almost into patois, and she's, you're very fly, my girlfriend that gave this and all this sort of stuff. And he immediately relaxed, and he was really into the call. He was really enjoying talking to her. Now, he was leading it. She didn't say anything appropriate, but he was really enjoying this call. And
she's just massaged his ego.
Massaged it. Everyone says he's a really nice guy and all sorts of stuff. And so she arranges it, and for 2 days later, which was a Saturday, I got to meet, and he tried to meet her in a club in Streatham and said, no clubs, public place. We agreed that. And she eventually agreed to meet him in a concourse of a tube station in just outside in South London. And great, no problem at all. And so she said, well, how will I know you? He said, oh, well, I'll be wearing white shoes, white trousers, white jacket, and a white hat. I go, no. And he goes, and I got a big ass gold chunky bracelet. Now, we didn't know, of course, at this point whether this was the right guy. We don't know when we got his DNA. But one of the victims in her statement had described a white jacket and a big gold chunky bracelet he was wearing. So when he said this chunky bracelet, I thought, I think this is him. This could be him. So we arranged it. But of course, now we had to public protection, hers and his protection.
Yeah.
And so we get a surveillance team in and to follow her. So we'll take her to the tube station. And then I got the TSG, the riot police guard unit of them to come out to be in there to actually make the arrest. Didn't have enough at the time for a firearms warrant. I didn't think he's going to bring a gun along to a date, and so we did this. And we're in the observation post, and the signal would be she'd drop her handbag. When he approached her, she'd drop her handbag. So we're there, and she was on the ground for 10 minutes. She got approached, I think it's 3 times. It's like, stand by, and she just chatted and walked away. She got asked out by 3 different guys.
Really?
She's a very attractive one. Big, strong, attractive woman. Everyone's about, these 2 other guys had no idea what was about to happen to them. And then she's standing there, and she said to me afterwards in debrief, I just knew he was behind me. I just knew he was there. She said, just something just chilled me. She turned around, he was standing there, full white kit, held out his hand with this big gold chunky bracelet. Now, Jay, that's not her name, that was her undercover name, used to be a self-defense instructor. And she thought for a split second, I was going to kick in the nads and take him myself.
Wrap him straight down.
Just taking myself. But she
thought,
no.
Him up like a pretzel.
She just dropped her handbag, turned, and then at that point, like, it's about every other member of the public was touchy tears. She just descended on this guy. And I think it's worth mentioning that people get taken out firm and hard to protect themselves. Because you don't want to fight.
Of course, yeah.
And we've had it a lot where people
minimal effort.
They don't even thinking they can fight, and so one person per limb plus the head, get them down and then control them because they're not going to be able to fight. And sometimes the public see 5 policemen to take down one person. Yeah, because we didn't want to just pan them. You want to take them down and control them.
You don't want to tear up, do you? No. You don't want to end up in a situation where you've got to do something drastic to control them.
Because we're going to win, and we want to win in a way that doesn't... It's not MMA, That's not the idea. The idea is quick and firm.
There's no belt at the end of it.
No, exactly. So he's nicked, he's down, and we're in the van, and he's in the van, we're going back, and I phone up our colleagues who'd be up in West Mids. They come down and brief us on the job, come back up. I phone them up saying, any other of your cases you want us to clear up for you? He's in the van. He said, I'm on the next train. Came down, and then we had 36 hours waiting for the DNA to come back. And it came back, direct match. And he's like... Yeah,
he was as guilty as the puppy next to a pile of the obvious
100%,
stuff.
Yeah. And then we just went through it, and he just denied everything, wouldn't talk, made up all sorts of crap. But... yeah, and then he went away, and then at court he pleaded guilty to the two West Midlands one, but not the Lambeth one. But he pleaded on the day. He pleaded in advance on the day. He went guilty. And actually, I think I do know why. He was afraid of wider things that might happen to him, not from us. That's why he was.
Once he was in the system.
Yeah. But he got. I was disappointed he got 14 years. I wanted him to get life. He got 14, plus deportation. And it's just coming up to the anniversary. And I Googled him. Don't know why, because I'm never going to say his name, but I Googled him. And he'd been rearrested in Jamaica for a series of rapes. There's
a thing, isn't there? Do you know what I mean? There's you know, sometimes when someone's got to go away for life, don't you? Do you know what I mean? And life should mean life.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If not, for me, I'll take it a little step further than that. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But we won't talk about that now. But do you know what I mean? You know, if someone's a wrong 'un like that, it's not going to disappear because you've had 14 years in Nick. No. You're still going to be a wrong 'un when you get out. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. And that was, a fantastic job. We worked, and once the arrest was in, we were doing 20. I was out of the house 20 hours a day because once that happens, that's when the real work starts, the paperwork and the disclosure and the logging. Because I remember sitting down with the team and saying, right,
and all that's got to be lined up, or a good lawyer on his side will just absolutely tear you a new hole somewhere.
Yeah, and get him off. I mean, I said to the team, this will stand or fall on procedure, not on evidence, because we got literally tons of evidence. Procedure, there will not be one gap. And my partner Hugh outstanding detective. We gave him disclosure, so his job was to make sure that all the paperwork. I've got to say, people come into the office and take the lunch order of sandwiches. I'll have that, photocopy that, everything. There was going to be no chance. And when the lawyer came in, and there were no gaps, there were no chinks.
So a proper textbook how it should have been.
Yeah, it was hard
from start to finish. Apart from you didn't get quite the result because he should have had life.
Should have had life, yeah. But now he's doing 20 years hard labour in Jamaica.
Oh mate, yeah, that's different gravy, isn't it? That's so
he's getting some.
Yeah, he will be getting some. Yeah. So you ended up at some stage with the close protection role.
Yeah, I did. So just after 9/11, I went to counter-terrorism work in Special Branch. I decided that's what I wanted to do. I wanted something. I was waiting to join. At that point, to join the military. I wanted to do something, so I went to do counter-terrorism intelligence stuff, working with the agencies. Really enjoyed that. And then
how long did you do that?
So I was there for about 3 years doing that. And Special Branch, it doesn't exist unfortunately in London anymore, was made up of a number of squads, and within that was different types of terrorism: Irish operations, domestic, extremist, external, international, surveillance, all sorts of stuff. Doesn't exist anymore. But protection, which was a squad. Yeah. And they were looking for a DI, which I was, detective inspector then, with proactive experience, etc. Again, to move on to protection team. I'd set up a unit within inside the protection unit, a different type. They'd brought me in to help them set up that about a year before, so they knew me anyway. And then so I went in and did my protection training, which was hard. I thought.
How long was that for?
That was a series of courses over about a year.
Okay.
I mean, I broke 2 ribs of my coccyx on one of the courses.
Really?
Yeah, and
what, rolling about with someone? Or?
So yeah, I got they used to do the charging man. The fist suits, the big padded suit.
Yeah, the red man suit.
Yeah, red man. Exactly that.
Yeah.
And it just basically charged from the side of the gym. And we used to do a technique which was crap. But long story short is I got clattered and I felt my ribs go. 2 ribs went. And, that was on about just over halfway through the course. And then a couple of days later, we were doing another one, and it was a blocking thing. And the guy took a swing at me. I tried to get my block up, and I was a bit too slow. So he hit my hand, and I hit my chin, and I'm plonked down on my arse. And I get back up again, and I thought, shit. And I panned him. And he actually said it was the hardest ever been punched, and it was like I was really angry. And then that's when I bust my coccyx, and so that was the Friday. I went home and I just dosed myself up with ibuprofen, Solpadeine Max, Arnica, everything.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that was the final test, physical test, and then the next part of the course was more the still was gun skills, but we're less likely to be fighting with people.
Yeah.
So. I just doped myself up and running around the gym kind of like this, holding my ribs in. And
ribs is a horrible one, isn't it?
Mate, what can you do? I mean, you must have done them. I mean, they just.
I did mine in Israel actually.
I did really.
Krav Maga. I did Krav Maga.
I'm not surprised.
Before I came onto the quartet team.
Yeah.
I did mine doing Krav Maga, and I was laid up for about 3 or 4 weeks. I couldn't even laugh or smile. It was honking.
Mate, I was so paranoid about getting hooked on the painkillers that I'd come off on the weekend. I remember on a Saturday morning rolling over, and what the hell, this stabbing pain. But one of the sergeants who's running the course came up to me and said, "You injured?" I said, "I'm all right." He said, "You can leave." I said, "You kicked me off this course, but I ain't walking from it." And I'd already decided I wasn't coming back anyway. This is my one shot at this. I wasn't going through this shit again.
Selection. If I failed, I'd made up my mind. I'm not doing that again.
Yeah, but I wasn't going to walk. Yeah. And I told him, if you kick me off, that's fine, but I ain't walking. And he didn't. And I stayed and got through it. And that was all the basic prop. And then by the time we'd met, I was doing the Hurley, high risk, low infrastructure stuff. So that's the higher risk operations, which is bigger guns, training with other departments, deploying with other departments. Afghanistan, Iraq, Gaza, Somalia, Yemen, you name it, all the Judith Chalmers tourist locations that a government minister wants to go to.
All the nice places.
Yeah, I mean, it was
all the nice places. Yeah,
someone's gone off to. A friend of mine was on the royalty side of things, and I tried to get him to come over and join us. And so I'm going away. So
you lot were getting some air miles, weren't you?
We're getting some air miles, mate. But he was going Greek Island cruising. I was off to Kabul. So he goes, maybe not. So it was. Yeah, it was a. I mean, I had to really do my vetting, and I realised I'd done operations on every single continent other than Antarctica, And if anybody's listening and they got a job in Antarctica, that's one piece that's missing from my set. So. But no, then the hybrid stuff got really interesting. And then
you were in at a time where the whole world was at war, weren't they? Really? Do you know what I mean? You had Iraq, you had Afghanistan. You know, the Middle East is a hotbed anyway. Yeah. You had, Gaza was kicking off. You had all the stuff that happened when we were there.
Yeah. We do Mogadishu. We go and it was a different
West Africa, East Africa.
Well, we do Somalia, we do Yemen, we do Sierra Leone, Liberia. Sierra Leone wasn't too bad at that time, but we deploy. If there was UK military there, that's great. So Afghanistan, Iraq, we had that support up around us, and those guys are there for whole tours. We turn up for maybe a couple of weeks, and yes, we'll go outside the wire, but our risk tolerance is a lot lower. But then we go to places where there wasn't any military, British military, like Yemen and Somalia, and then suddenly it's like that's why we had to have that level of training and weaponry and capability.
I'm very lucky, as you know. I came into Gaza with you all at once, as a driver, like, you know what I mean. But
we were glad to have you there.
Yeah, mate. Honestly, I was just so chuffed to be able to work with you and see how you did things and whatever. And I was mega impressed. That was a really cool thing for me to do. Like, do you know what I mean?
No, it's great, and we drew whatever cross-pollination we could, because when the unit was set up, a very, very good friend of mine, Ian Webb, he's not with us anymore, but he set the team up. There was no training. The SWAT team, if you like, 19, who used to train us on our protection, they didn't know this. They had never been these places. So we had
really their bag, was it? Their bag was, anything on the UK, really, wasn't it? And
outstandingly good at it. The CTs, SWAT SFOs, Special Firearms Officers, outstanding, some of the best in the world in that globe, and we were different. So that's why we went to RMP, we went to Hereford, went to Poole, drawing in skills and experience and tactical stuff within the rules of engagement that we have as police, which actually weren't that different. Because as everyone finds out, you can't just plug someone because you don't like them. Lee Clegg. Lee Clegg's a classic thing. Lee Clegg, half a second decision making, and he went to prison. So I'm not saying that he plugged someone he didn't want to, but by me is that the decision making just shows that unless it is a clear and present and immediate threat to life,
that's all experience again as well, isn't it? Experience and training puts you in a position to be able to take those shots a lot better than if you don't get them as 100%. Well.
And so we had to get that sort of environment where, again in London, armed cops come and they deal with it and stay with it and send it off. We might not have to be able to do that. If we're hit somewhere, we're going to shoot and scoot. And so that brought in all sorts of issues around post-incident procedure. Because in the UK, if a police officer fires around, the scene is frozen, everything's retained, and a huge investigation, quite rightly, comes back.
SOCO comes in,
all the bells and whistles, and everything. Of course it does, and quite rightly so.
But if you're in downtown Gaza,
and we're gone,
and you have a tear up, and you're likely you're going to be shooting more than one round in somewhere like that,
and we're off.
And you've got to go, haven't you? You've got to go. So we had to have crime scene preservation is zip.
That exactly.
Because it's going to have gone by the time you've
witnesses.
You've left.
I think so. So we had there's a massive amount of work I did with the head of the command about managing expectations. Because if you think we're going to, like DPS, who like the internal affairs, if you like, who investigate these sorts of things initially, said, if you think I'm going to stick around, we're not even stopping to give first aid because we're still under attack. Because this is only one person. We'll be lucky if we can get all of our people out. Yeah. So we're not saying statements. And so there's a real issue about how we do that. Well, just give it to the military then. So, okay. But again, this isn't just about using guns. It's about all the planning.
Yeah, the other thing is, especially in Gaza, you can't just take a British military team and take them into Gaza.
Yeah.
Because that's almost a hostile act, isn't it?
Well, it's called an invasion.
Yeah.
I mean, exactly. we even had that conversation. We said,
absolutely.
How are you going to get these military in for a start? Well, we just said you can't because they can't go in without different if you're cops. People let cops come in.
Over here it's MACP, it's military aid to the civil power, and that's fine. But you can't have military aid to the civil power doing it in someone else's backyard.
Unless they sign it off.
Yeah.
And we start taking big guns with us. At the time we had the G36, we had auto triggers on them as well. We put that in permission. They would give us it. Now, you say you're an SF team coming in, straight away they're not going to let you play. It's a different thing.
Ball game
so we'd had that, I guess, advantage. But again, we always said, look, we carry big guns and all the medical kit and Gaza, we even had effectively had the machine that went bing in the back of the surgery vehicle, if you remember.
Yeah. No, you had the bells and whistles.
That's always a contingency. we plan and plan and plan and plan and plan never to fire a round. You know, we're not going on a fighting patrol. You know, we're not going looking for the enemy. In fact, you know, if we get intel that it's on us, we're leaving.
You're more than likely shy
this
away.
Is if everything else fails, then we want every toy and every bit of kit and every bit of training to get Mrs. Baimbridge and her son's friends home with it, and that means big guns and stuff. So it is a different sort of role, which is why it wasn't the SWAT teams and it wasn't the military. It was, you know, the Hurley team. And I think now it's probably changed a little bit because there's, you know, Iraq and Afghanistan aren't there. There's less demand on the other CP resources.
I mean, there's still loads going on, isn't there?
Oh, it's not a friendly world.
All of Africa's in
Ukraine.
bits, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? Ukraine as well. I mean, you know, Boris don't just go there on a plane, does he? Do you know what I mean? Boris has got a team of people with him, hasn't he? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, no,
it's a dangerous world.
In terms of names of people that you've provided prop for, can you give me some, or is that against you?
I've looked after presidents from a number of countries. So I used to run the inbound visitors. So if heads of state, head of government, foreign ministers, charge of security. So I looked after a number of presidents. Karzai.
I know. I've met Hamid Karzai myself.
Nice guy.
He
came in between the 1st and 2nd July set of bombings in London. He came in. I looked after him, got on very well with him. Other East Europeans and. Do
you ever think, shall I card him up?
That time, I mean, it was before a time, maybe I should have done, but it was kind of, it's interesting because there are people that you look after on behalf of HMG that you wouldn't necessarily like. And I'm talking about outside, not our own people, but, you know, you got heads of state, heads of government, people from Northern Ireland coming in, maybe that HMG have decided this person, we don't want them dead on our ground, and so we're deployed, but it's about professionalism. You know, that's people brighter and with a bigger picture than me have decided that this person isn't going to die here, and then we'll put ourselves in harm's way to protect them. And that's I think maybe a slight difference between the corporate world and government stuff is that there is always a bigger picture. It's not always money.
Yeah. No, I totally get that.
But then when I was in the UK, so the special branch side it's now combined. It's now RAS, Royalty and Specialist Protection. That's combined both roles. But when I was in, it was special branch and SO1. It was and a bit of RAS. I didn't do the royalty side. It wasn't my thing.
I've still got my SO1 coins.
Have
somewhere.
You?
Yeah, somewhere.
Okay, another one. And a cufflinks, hopefully.
I've got the cufflinks, I've got the cufflinks. I've got the number 10 cufflinks.
Have you?
Well. Yeah, Parnell sorted them out.
I bet you did. Nicked them from me, I expect. Dodgy Jack. But it was, I focused, I preferred the ministerial side. I think the threat was different and it was more dynamic. So I looked after Home Sec, Foreign Sec, Justice, what was DFID, International Development, but also we also did delegation security. So I was out in Beijing for the Olympics for 8 months, looking after British interests out there, including like visitors from diplomatic visitors, royal visitors, but also the sporting team, Team GB. And that went really well. And as it was wrapping up, I had 2 phone calls in 2 days. One was offering me Gordon Brown in office or Tony Blair out of office. And I've always wanted to be the head of the Prime Minister's Protection Team, following in the footsteps of Walter Thompson. But it was or Blair, and it's Brown or Blair. And they've both been excellent, challenging jobs. But I thought I will get more experience going with the Blair team, running the Blair team.
Blair was travelling all over the place.
He was just about to get the quartet. So I decided that.
And every time I saw you, you'd been somewhere different. Every time I saw you. Every time I saw you. Where you been?
Well, I kind of always thought that I'd do the PM's team later, but then I got promoted and then never got the chance, which is a bit of a regret. But no, the Blair team was fantastic, as you know. He's a great principal, and we, but it was hard, and that was a marriage breaker for just about everybody. It was he was so busy with all the political stuff.
He didn't stop, did he? And the people that he was wrapped around, they all worked 20-hour days, didn't they?
Hard-working people, hard-working team.
They'd done as much work in the plane as they did on the ground, didn't they? Yeah. They were always on the go, weren't they?
Yeah, and the access he got enabled HMG to carry on doing it, which is why he got prop from us, for a number of reasons. But, he'd turn up and presidents and kings would invite him in for dinner, where maybe an ambassador was still waiting a year later to see them. So he could get access for other people in HMG and stuff like that. I took a pause then from the higher risk stuff because he was so full time, And then other when we take him to really dangerous places like Gaza and some of the stuff in Africa, we do with him. Obviously, I was able to lead that side of things as well. But I was 6 years I was with him.
Yeah, long old time.
Six long years.
That's phenomenal.
But it was, again, as far as a principal goes, the other best principal part-time was Justine Greening.
Okay.
She was awesome when she was at DFID, Secretary of State for International Development.
Yeah.
She got protection when I took her to the Bekaa in Lebanon and
DFID always tip up and he's really hostile. I did some work with DFID in Kabul.
Really,
they were always in the field. They were always going out to all the provinces. They never stopped.
But she was fantastic. She was in, like I said, I think Afghanistan and the Bekaa. I think I took her to. And her very first job, she'd never had protection before. Going to we're in Kabul. I didn't get a chance to see her before because she was somewhere else. Got on the ground, briefed her, a nice conversation with her, which always includes at some point you're going to think something's safe to do. I'm going to say it's not. Know now that you'll be wrong and I'll be right, because it's what I do for a living. We laugh, we smile, we get on fine. Something that's happening, we were due to go somewhere and there was a bit of an issue at the venue, and we just got in, and she was with somebody else, a diplomat, and I said, we've got to hold because we're not ready to go yet. There's a bit of an issue at the venue, and the diplomat started to kick back a little bit about the importance of the meeting, and they got about 4 words out of their mouth, and Justine Greening goes, Tim's in charge of my security. If he says it's not good to go, it's not good to go. In my earpiece, we're clear, we're good to go. So thank you very much, Mum, we're good to go.
It's nice to get a boss like that who actually appreciates what you're doing, but moreover will listen when they're told. Because we'd had a couple when I was doing it, the European Commission and those sorts of people where they'd kick against you so hard, you'd have to rein them in with someone way up the food chain, you know what I mean? Because they just wouldn't have it.
I didn't have that.
But you'd always find, we had one in particular who kicked off at us one time, and then there was an explosion really close to the compound that we was in. He was your best friend then.
I bet he was.
Best friend for, till the end of his time there. Best friend. They went, oh, Phil, just go, Phil, do you know what I mean?
If a wee. All right, you go have a wee.
Yeah.
No, I was very lucky, but I'd always said that we can disagree later. You can tune me out. I could defend my decisions when we're back on the plane or we're back in the base or whatever, but not on the street. And pretty much none of them ever did. And the only time I had anything was... we'd had a very, very, very short notice deployment to Afghanistan, and we said everything's got to be inside the wire because we haven't got a chance to advance it. We're just going to fly into CAF and rotaries, and that's it. We're not going on the road. And then there was a bit of they tried to change it, and the military advisor pushed back, and we said from the start the only way we agreed to it is, and he phoned up the cabinet office, who we are agents of. On our overseas, which is great because when I'm speaking as the cabinet office, so sit over the ministries. And the chair of the cabinet office committee said, "What did the SO1 guys say?" Which we were at the time. SO1, that's confusing. That was specialist operations. We're not SO1.
Yeah.
And what did the SO1 guys say? Said, "Well, we can do it. Why are you phoning us then?" So that was afterwards on the plane.
Nice to get that.
Oh yeah, the principal.
But I say you can't have these arguments on the ground.
No.
And you can only have them when you get back to camp. Yeah. And the fact that you've got back to camp is testament it was the right decision anyway.
Oh, yeah. And on the plane, the principal said, well, I thought we were going to go and do this. And I thought, here we go. And this colonel said, no, Tim said no. And he was right.
Yeah, no, that's
And afterwards, I had a big handshake. He said, no, it's like, he is under massive different pressure to me. Yeah. He had 1 stars and 2 stars, wanted to make sure that the Sec for Death went out and did something. And he's got some plod
then that's
saying
the bigger
no.
picture. That's the bigger picture again, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? So, listen, you did that for a number of years.
Yeah.
Tim's out now.
Yeah.
What's Tim doing now? What are you doing?
I'm not sure I knew what I was doing when I was in, but so I left in February 2017. My wife is Foreign Office, so she's a dip, and she was got a posting out to Jordan, so end of 2017. So I looked for jobs, and there's a large NGO was looking for a risk and security manager for Syria. I applied. The country manager, Tom White, excellent guy, ex-Aussie Para officer. He asked a few people if they could recommend anybody, and 2 people, Dodgy Jack being one of them, put my name forward. I said, Tim Baimbridge came out to Jordan, and I got a job there, and I worked out there for 4 years. So a lot of time in Syria, and then I moved to the regional office, and then I was asked to apply for the head office training team out of Oslo. But I said, my wife is in Jordan, I'm not separating, I'll be here. And it was like, all right then, you can work remotely as long as you travel to the sort of training. So that was for 4 years of that. And then in middle of 21, we came home. And a couple of our guys I'd worked with, we'd all had companies and bits and pieces going. And so we said, look, let's form a company together. So we formed a company called Longboat Solutions, which was meant to be a risk management company. But we ended up falling into supply and logistics, as like everybody did during COVID.
Yeah.
And then when we came back in 2021, we opened another company here in the UK called Longboat Rund, which is a risk management company. And so now I'm CEO of that. We deal with preparing people. So LBS, Longboat Solutions, gets the logistics for people to do stuff and finds things and links people up to whatever we're doing. Longboat Rund, LBR, we help prepare people to live and work in difficult environments. So that's training like heat and stuff like that, but also protective psychology. So there's a massive amount of work, as you know, that's really good work that's been done on helping people deal with the effects of psychological trauma, or courage and all those sorts of things. Fantastic. NHS, it was brilliant. But what we're looking at doing is helping people build their resilience before they go. And that's something we used to do with the NGO sector. We train people about it, and all our courses.
It's expectations all the time. It's expectations, isn't it? Do you know what I mean? And managing that and saying what is likely and what is unlikely to happen.
You're absolutely right. And a lot of courses, people are, other people do it. It's death and destruction from dawn till dusk. It's not that realistic, and people don't do it. Well, ours is more on. It's called high fidelity stress exposure training. So it's slowly building the pressure, and it's about psychologically bruising people so that if you come across a new situation, a really traumatic situation, first thing your brain does, and these are in nanoseconds, is it goes and thinks, have I dealt with this before? Have I experienced this before? And how do I deal with it? And if that's a positive outcome, then you're already halfway to beating it in your mind. If, however, the experience you did last time was a negative, as in, and it ended really, really badly, then you're already one wicket down. You're already starting to struggle.
You're already pulling away from it.
And because that's psychological scarring. So what our job is to push people, and it's all individual because everyone does psychological profiling and questionnaires before they come on the courses, is to push people just to the point before they say, I'm done, I can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
And then we carry on building them up, and everybody gets individual treatment according to their needs and experiences. And then we psychologically bruise them. And so if they do face this situation, they go back and say, I have been through this, and I beat it. Yeah. Because like a bruised muscle comes back stronger.
And I know what to do, and I've been there, and I've got that. Yeah.
So the protective psychology is a really important part of what we're doing. So that's that side of it. And and Longboat Solutions, we're thinking of changing the company to I know a guy, because because of our experience everywhere, people are coming to us and saying, have you got contacts in this country?
Mate, you would certainly in my address book as someone I would go to if I need advice on anything security-wise, if I need something, a piece of kit, if I need something from another country, or I need to hook up with a diplomat or try and get somebody back. There are so many things that you do, Tim.
Yeah, that's nice.
We're going to have you on here again.
I'm sorry, I've waffled, haven't I? Sorry,
I think we're going to have you on here again. We're going to I could talk to you all day, mate. Look, your service to this country has been absolutely phenomenal, and I can't thank you enough. You are a top operator.
It's nice you say so.
And the field in which you've operated in is full of some really decent people. You're up the top there, buddy. You really are. Okay, and I'm a privileged to call you my friend. I really am.
Get in there, mate.
All right.
Cheers. It's been great having you. Thank you very much, mate.
Thank you very much.